is really exciting for me because I love CRIMP so much, and this is an opportunity for my colleagues at CRIMP to meet my incredible team at the Workplace Justice Lab. And so I know we are small, but we are mighty in terms of, the opportunity to share and to talk and to tell you about our work. So I'm gonna, and what's really exciting about it is that the Workplace Justice Lab has 4 full-time staff on the labor enforcement side. And what's really exciting is that you're going to meet my 2 colleagues, Jen Round and Ellen Love, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves when we get there. But both of them are highly experienced at labor standards enforcement. Both of them come out of local enforcement agencies. Jen was the first director of enforcement at the Seattle Office of Labor Standards Enforcement. And Ellen was on the senior staff of the first Office of Labor Standards in the country. Seattle was the second in San Francisco. And she led the implementation of many important policies there and sort of watched as the agency developed over 10 years. So what's great about that is that when we do our work, we have these very highly experienced hands who really know investigation and know enforcement. And so agencies can't say to them, oh, you don't understand, because they do understand and they've had that experience and they've been there. So you heard me say this a little bit before. I'll say it very quickly that we're in the middle of a bottom-up labor policy boom. Michael Piori, who you're going to hear from as well, famous labor economist and MacArthur genius and advisor on this small business project. And I wrote a piece called The New Labor Federalism in the Industrial Labor Relations Review. And we talked about this emergence of new labor federalism. Anyway, 46 cities and counties have passed minimum wage laws higher than the federal level. 24 cities and counties paid sick leave laws, 8 cities fair scheduling, and counties and cities have been passing these sectorally specific, occupationally specific policies that maybe will provide opportunities for organizing and also maybe create the basis for some kind of sectoral organizing and bargaining, although I think it's really important to put that in its proper context, and we can talk about that later. Okay, so this just gives you a sense of how many offices of labor standards enforcement have grown up in the last little while. So they're not all the same, and you're going to hear more about that from Jen and Ellen. Suffice it to say that some of these have a lot more resources than other. The vast majority of these are very small, but there's a few that are quite significant in terms of staffing, and some like Minneapolis and Chicago that don't have a lot of staff but have very close relationships with worker centers with whom they are engaged in formal co-enforcement, and where the worker centers are actually deployed by the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement in really creative and powerful ways that really also aid them in organizing. Yeah, I said this stuff at the plenary. I don't know that I'm going to have to take the time to repeat it, but I'll just say that I'm going to give you a little bit about the Workplace Justice Lab, and then I'll go on. So within Rutgers, within the school, we are kind of like a nonprofit almost. Like we raise foundation money, but we're based at the university. So our work is to try to shift the theories and practices of state and local government agencies to more effectively protect the rights of low-wage workers, particularly BIPOC, immigrants, and women. And partly we do that through papers and training and technical assistance and webinars and presentations. And we build communities of learning and practice with agencies. So like, we have 18 agencies that meet regularly. And you know how much more effective it is if agencies are teaching each other and sharing with each other. So that's what happens there. And you can see here a list of the states and cities. We always start with baseline research to try to convince the agencies that the traditional approach that they're taking to enforcement, meaning complaint-based enforcement, is missing the mark, because so many workers in particular sectors are so unlikely to come forward and complain. So that gives you a sense. And through these, sometimes on webinars we'll have 40 or 50 or 60 people. Other ones will have 140. Jen and Ellen organized one recently on trauma-based interviewing techniques, and they had hundreds of investigators and dozens of agencies that came on. So we do deep dives with agencies that are primed for change. So that's a lot of planning and a lot of specific specialized training. And Jen in particular on our team has been the person who has pioneered these trainings. And the results have been that there are several states that have come to Jesus, have created directed investigation units, have made significant changes as a consequence of these trainings. And then we have, with Jobs with Justice, created a community of learning and practice for worker centers, legal nonprofits, and unions that really looks at how to use enforcement, as I was saying to you guys, to drive structure back into the labor market and to use enforcement of these policies they're passing to build worker power and to build opportunities to create organizations. And then we work also with lawmakers in leadership positions in key states. We look for opportunities. Is there a new governor here? Does that mean there'll be a new Secretary of Labor? Does that mean we could get in and do some work with them? You're going to hear a lot about our small business project in a little while. And we're thrilled to have Andrew Wolf as part of our team, who's a newly minted PhD from UW-Wisconsin-Madison, and has brought a lot to our team and is going to be presenting his research. And we're doing a study now called Jim Crow at Work. And the idea of that is that we are creating a database of every worker protection law and administrative procedure and enforcement capacity in every state. And the idea is to try to highlight regions of the country where there's the fewest regulation and the least enforcement capacity. And it won't surprise you to hear that that's primarily the South, which is, a legacy of, as we say, Jim Crow at work, chattel slavery, and after that, right, the end of Reconstruction and the imposition of oppressive work regimes for Black Americans.